everybody, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people just like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. I have two guests today. One is from North Carolina, but one is broadcasting all the way from Peru. I think that might be our first guest from Peru. And I just found out he's been vegan 6 years longer than me, 50 years. That is absolutely incredible. His name is Mark Perlmutter. Also, we have Justin Belleme, who's been on the show before, and we're going to be talking about investing in veganism, literally and figuratively. Please welcome Justin and Mark to the show. It's nice to see you guys.
Hi, thanks.
Thanks, Chef AJ. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Thank you. Mark, we met at Summerfest. That was many years ago. And did you have hair back then?
No, but thank you for remembering that we met, and I enjoyed it. And you were on the stage with Michael, who did that question and answer game show mock-up.
That's right. We did Jeopardy. I remember.
It was so funny. It was great.
Really fun. Great memory. Great memory. So, I consider myself one of the vegan OGs, because 44 years, but 50, very impressive. What made you want to go vegan in, I guess it's 1971?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was in the group that would be drafted. I was a high school kid, and I was going to either go to college or get drafted. And I was reading about Gandhi's work, and it was my form of protest against the Vietnam War. Gandhi said, if you want to stop men from killing men, and maybe women killing women too, he didn't say that, but that's what he probably meant. You have to stop people from killing animals first. And I took that to heart. And so my first choice for not eating animals, not killing animals, was to find a way to make the world a better place for all beings. And little by little, I learned so much more, the environment, the personal health, the public health. I mean, it just, snowballed. And I was lucky because I didn't know any other vegans at that time. I didn't have any restaurants. There was no veggie grill. There was no Whole Foods. And I was a pretty lonely guy. My first 10 years, I isolated and offended all my friends. I would go around saying meat is murder. And I had no tact at all. So I lost all my friends, and I had to learn to be a little more subtle.
I know what you mean. Well, in being in Peru, I think it was Dr. Milton Mills. Are there like a lot of delicious sweet potatoes in Peru, like 400 varieties?
Yeah, I should tell you and your guests that I'm in Peru right now because we produce food here, and we vegan food, and we export it to the US and sell it online. So that's the Peruvian connection. And yes, veganism in Peru is not widely popular, but it also doesn't have any baggage. Like nobody is offended by the idea that you want to eat vegan if you ask them to make a vegan dish at a restaurant. There is a chain of a few vegan restaurants. One's called the Raw Cafe. Can you believe it? It's based on Gabriel Cousins' work. And so there is a lot of opportunity to eat vegan. They even have a ceviche dish here, which of course is raw fish as we know it in the US, but it's made out of chickpeas and onions and lemon juice. And so it has no fish at all. And people, when they go to a fancy restaurant, might order a ceviche, and they would get this mushroom and chickpea dish, and they wouldn't complain. It wouldn't be anger that they didn't get their fish. It's really quite a beautiful cuisine, very elegant service and so forth.
That is very cool. So are you doing anything to celebrate your 50-year anniversary?
Yeah, I'm on your show.
Nice. Yeah, it's just so funny. I love it's very gratifying when you see the younger generation go vegan. It's funny, I'm in the older generation now, but it's so fun because when I went vegan, like nobody really cared. There was nobody older than me that's like, yeah, good for you. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't anybody doing it.
Well, the thing is, I tried to get friends, family, anybody I could to go vegan. And in my career of being a vegan enthusiast, I don't think I've ever converted one person. I feel like a bad vegan. So as Justin was saying earlier before the show.
Oh, he's frozen, Justin. So you take over for a minute, maybe because of the connection in Peru.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm not exactly sure where Mark was going with that comment line, but
really, and I thought my family would see this. Yeah. So I was hoping that the film would actually show people reason that they would then take action. And the film was called simply Raw: Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days.
Yeah, you froze for a little bit. So you said that you were the producer of that film because I actually
yeah. Sorry about the freezing. Yeah, I don't know why. That's Peru, I guess. So I was motivated to make this film thinking, okay, if I can't convince my family, the doctor can. And so we made this film of Dr. Gabriel Cousins where we took 6 diabetics from all across the United States to his resort in Tucson, Arizona. And for 30 days, he put them on a raw vegan diet and reversed their diabetes. And it was a great film because it showed the human struggle of trying to change your diet, trying to believe this is going to work when you haven't gotten any doctors anywhere else to tell you that. It was a great story. And anybody wants to see it, it's free. It's available on YouTube. Just search for Simply Raw and the movie will come out.
I remember one of the participants, I think his name was Kurt Tyson, and I think he became a doctor. Are you?
That's right. That's right. He became a chiropractor and a naturopathic doctor, and he moved back to the East Coast, and he has a practice between Baltimore and Washington. That's correct.
Wow. And did everybody stay raw in the film?
No, it's really hard, as you know, unless you're surrounded by people who support it and eat that way with you. Kurt was trying to stay 80% raw and 20% to control his diabetes and also be a good role model. That was the last time I talked to him. That was many years ago. We followed up with some of the participants in the film, for a couple of years. And, some of them just couldn't hold on to it. And so they, went their own way and tried other diets. One of them tried the keto diet. That didn't work for her. She came back to vegan. And there's just, the human cycles of life. It's really challenging.
Mark, I think this is an important part of the story of this whole show we're doing about investing in veganism. So Mark and I met about 6 years ago, and we reconnected about 3 months ago. And in that reconnection, I learned more about your motivations for your entrepreneurial work. And one of them, you told me a few different ways, but was that you had this film that was seen by some 2 million plus people. And a lot of them said that they learned a lot and they wanted to try to eat plant-based, but they consistently had a challenge of convenience of going vegan. Can you explain that a little bit more and how that led you?
That's exactly right. I had a chance to travel and show this film. I've shown it in about 20 cities around the US, a little bit in Latin America, and a little bit in Asia. And the feedback I get from people who view it is, great. Now I know what to do if I ever get sick. And I'm thinking, oh, that's not why I made the film. I was hoping that people would be motivated to make a change. And the real big, in a lot of email feedback and a lot of comments after the film, we would see, it's just too hard for me. I don't know anyone. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to get it. I only have an hour at lunch, all these different reasons. And so that was 2008, 9, 10. And so for a few years, I watched and waited. And my mission in life really is to help people live a better life. And I think veganism is one of the keys to that. So about 2013, I started seeing companies like Beyond Meat get funded and Impossible Foods. And I went down and visited their offices. And then, we saw the rise of tofurkey getting more and more popular and more availability, at least in California at that time. And so we started seeing mainstream edging into alternative meat, products. And I thought, wow, this is the time. So about that time, I hired some food engineers in Northern California. And I said, if I wanted to enter the food business in order to help people begin to transition towards eating more plant-based, not necessarily go vegan, just eat more plant-based, how would you recommend they do it? Fresh foods, juices, frozen foods. And they suggested a meal that wouldn't need refrigeration. There's a process that allows you to, no chemicals, but you still have at room temperature a meal, and you just open it and eat it. You don't need to heat it. You don't need to microwave it. You don't need to add water. And that convenience factor was what committed me to go forward with this business model that they had proposed. And so that was the beginning of my next stage in how I get millions of people to eat more vegan. The film didn't do it. Now I got to make a meal for them.
People want convenience, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the convenience food sector is growing fastest of all sectors. And of course, vegan food within the convenience food sector is growing even faster than that. So it was a perfect matchup, a perfect storm, as they say. So that, we didn't go chronological, as I'm sure you would have preferred. So I apologize if I've confused any of your viewers. But really, my path to where I am now was I started this vegan diet, as AJ and I were talking, back in the 70s, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I really I probably had plenty of junk vegan food in my diet. And little by little, I became more aware of all the benefits, both personally, general public health, of course, the animals and the environment. And so soon I wanted to shift from the finance world where I was working. I worked as an investment broker for many, many years. I wanted to shift from that into the field of using those skills to help the world be better, whether it be in the environment. I've financed solar energy, wind energy, I helped start up in electric car business, and I decided to finance this film, as we said. And then after the film didn't achieve the results we were hoping for, we went on to, okay, what's next? Oh, we better make a meal for them. And so that was the next iteration of a financial activity that would have the ripple effect of benefits for health, benefits for the planet. And so that's the current iteration. And that leads us to why I called you 3 months ago, Justin. I had started this idea of a business, a vegan finance business, and I'm a finance guy, so I decided to finance it in the way which we're used to financing companies in Silicon Valley. There are several rounds of financing. You start out with maybe the founder's money, and then you get some angel investors, and then maybe you get another round of professional money, and then maybe you go public in 5 or 10 years. That's the goal. That's what Beyond Meat followed, by the way. So when I talked to a number of vegan leaders in the Bay Area, they said, look, it's really hard to get vegan companies financed, unless you have something like Beyond Meat, which is a patent or special product, proprietary product. So we said, no, we have a business service and utility, but we don't have a special proprietary product with patent. So the recommendation was that we use crowdfunding. After we looked at all different ways, we ended up deciding to use crowdfunding. And so I'm figuring out how to crowdfund this company, this meal company. And when I told the vegan leaders that were giving me advice, what I had figured out for our company, they said, that's really great. But why don't you, if it works for your company, why don't you make it available? There's so many vegan companies that need it. And that's the birth of the Vegan Investing Club that we're here to talk about today. It was really, I was a vegan entrepreneur startup. I needed it. I figured it out. And it was suggested to us that we make it a system and make it available to other vegan investors. And I said, well, that's a great idea. So that's the birth of the Vegan Investing Club. We launched it last summer, 2020. We got about 2,400 people to join in the first day. It was great. And we've gotten to about 11,000 members, all waiting for us to announce the first companies that are going to go through what we've created, this template we've created for them. And I'll explain more about that in a minute, but just to give you the lineage, the sort of timeline. So I reached out to you last June, I think, Justin, and I said, do you remember meeting me? I met you 6 years ago at the Social Impact. You bought me lunch at that great vegan restaurant, Greens, and I was so impressed with you. I said, someday I want to do business with you. I said, today might be the day. Let me tell you what I'm doing. I need your help. And you just took to it like a fish in water, pardon the pun, but you really got it. And evidently you had already been thinking about it. So it wasn't new to you. It was like fit right in the brain cells. And that was exciting for me because it was validating. Somebody smart like you who's active in the business of promoting vegan and social impact companies and movements. It was so rewarding for me to have you say, yes, I'd like to be part of this with you. So maybe you want to pick up from there, Justin, and share your response and what you learned about and where you're going to take it now that you're going to join as a co-founder.
I just want to say, I think it's a fabulous idea because it's sort of like putting your money where your mouth is in a way. And I'm just, I'm so, I don't know what the word is, what adjective, but the fact that when you did this wonderful film, because I remember it, I remember buying it and seeing it probably. Thank
you for buying it.
I want to say it was like in the early 2000s, I believe.
Yeah, we started selling it in 2009. That's right.
Right. And it's like for people to say, well, I'll wait until I get sick. That's like saying, well, I'll just drink alcohol till I become an alcoholic and then I'll quit. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it was very sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Justin, what do you like about this idea?
Well, I'm really excited about this idea. Like, as Mark said, it aligns with some things I've been thinking about for a while, and I'll explain. So I'm an entrepreneur, and the first project I ever helped with really as a business, a new business, was the Holistic Holiday at Sea Vegan Cruise, which my father co-founded in 2003. AJ, that's how we met, because you were a speaker on that event a couple different times. And I've built my whole marketing agency over the last 10 or 11 years on the back of my personal marketing experience that I gained through working with my father's company over the years. So I built up through that process a lot of network connections in the vegan world, influencers, media companies, partnerships, things like that. It's been a big part of the success of that business. And then I started my agency in 2010. And every couple of years, I learn about something that I get really excited about. And my second year in business, it was about starting an online school to teach marketing. And in my fourth or fifth year in business, we have been doing some regular crowdfunding, what's called donation crowdfunding. That's like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, those kind of platforms. We've been doing that. We had done 3 successful campaigns. One was for a vegan food company, one was for a fashion brand, and one was for an electric bike company. And they were all successful. But the people who donated, they didn't own any of the business. They just got a pre-order of something that was going to be developed. Within that year, in 2015, I learned about this new law that had passed called the Jobs Act, which enabled businesses to raise money from anyone. So if you're watching this and you don't know, the status quo of how businesses raise money is from what's called an accredited investor. And to be an accredited investor, you either have to be making about $300,000 per year in taxable income, or you need to have at least about $1 million in net worth outside of your personal residence.
That's right.
So that means investment properties or in companies that you own that have a value. That's a pretty small number of people. In the United States, most venture capitalists live in 3 cities: the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, New York, Austin, Texas. 97% of them are white men, and they're the ones who get the opportunities to invest in every startup. All the most successful technology companies, all the most successful food companies have been funded by these group of accredited investors. Well, equity crowdfunding makes it so that anyone can invest at the same stage, at the early stage. At that stage, it's risky. And we're going to talk about how to de-risk your investments later in the show. But when I heard about that, and I've always been interested in the stock market. My father was a stock market junkie when I was a kid. So we used to watch a lot of CNBC and things like that growing up. And I've always been interested in it, understanding how it worked, and knowing that you had to wait till a company goes public, or you had to start a company yourself to be able to participate at the earlier stage. So this democratizes the ability to invest, this crowdfunding technology called equity crowdfunding. So this one of the things that probably 3 or 4 things in the last 10 years that I got so excited about I couldn't sleep. A couple of days in a row, I woke up and I was just studying, watching videos, looking at legal language and watching legal presentations on my phone, because I was so excited about the potential to help these companies raise money and be involved and be part of it, be participant in the process in a different way. So I started getting really excited about it. I traveled to a conference in Las Vegas, a conference in Washington, D.C. for the Crowdfunding Association of America, made a lot of great connections. And then my business hit a little road bump, and I had to focus on my core business for a while, and I kind of put it on the shelf until Mark reached back out to me 3 months ago. And since then, I've actually had a lot of different clients say they want to try equity crowdfunding, and they're not all vegan. One of them is raising for sustainable forestry. One of them is raising for an ESG investing fund. One of them is raising money to do eco travel business. And I'm helping 2 of those, and I'm potentially helping a 3rd one. But my greatest connections, my greatest network, and my personal passion is saving the environment through veganism. So it was a perfect fit. And so we'll go into more about how it works. Probably it's a good thing to pivot to now. But Mark approached me and I said, I see the vision. In fact, earlier this year, I reached out to some of my friends and connections in the vegan world, and I said, I think there's an opportunity here. I have all these connections to traditional impact investing from my clients in that space, like where Mark and I met 6 years ago at a conference in San Francisco. I got lots of connections from that world. And I understand influencer marketing and how to activate large audiences. And also I want to just make this point, I was seeing a lot of ways that influencers are doing things that were either negative or neutral. Negative, influencers really drove the Capitol insurrection on January 6th of this year. It was online networks and influence that brought all those people to the Capitol. And it was the president at the time, his influence, that was causing all these negative things to happen. And then the GameStop thing that happened in this spring, where the GameStop price went way up and bankrupted a couple hedge funds. I looked into that a little bit, and I realized there was really 3 or 4 influencers who had social media followings. They had podcasts, YouTube shows, and Reddit threads that were able to drive millions of dollars, billions of dollars of investing to happen in a publicly traded company. And as I dug into it more, I realized that there was one person behind the whole thing. He joined the board. He bought a couple million shares at a really low price, $18 a share. And then he was able to drive it all the way up to whatever it went to, $400 a share for a little while. And so that showed me that influence can move markets. Beyond Meat influence, there was a huge aspect of influence in the Beyond Meat IPO. I don't know all the details, but I'm pretty sure that they gave some stock options to influencers and celebrities and media companies when they were going public to make sure that they had a lot of exposure. And that helped drive their stock price, as everyone knows, from $25 to $30 when it went public up to over $200 for a little while. And now it's been stable around $125 to $150 for a while. And so Mark will explain this later, but no average person was able to invest in Beyond Meat before the day they went public. But their investors, including Bill Gates, invested at $3 to $5 10 years ago, or however long ago that was. They were able to cash out at over $100 a share. So they made 30, 40, 50 times on their money. So what we're trying to do is create a way that is a potential possibility for people to put money in early and help support companies that they love and help them go get the growth that they need to be successful. So, Mark, can we talk a little bit about what equity crowdfunding is? I've gone over a little bit, but I'm doing very high level. And AJ, do you have a question as well?
There's a question from a live viewer named Mandy. But first, I'd like to say that if there was a way to have invested in Yoko Shinner's, cheese venture, I would have, knowing her. There wasn't. I mean, I don't think it was public. I think she had investors, but it wasn't
exactly.
public.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I'm friends with her, and I would say, my God, I want a piece of this. I mean, I know anything she touched was going to be successful. But Mandy's watching live from Australia, and she wanted to know if people overseas can join the Vegan Investing Club, and would this be a good place for beginning investors?
Yeah. Thank you, Mandy, for your question. That's a perfect question. If you visit the website, which is veganinvestingclub.org, you'll see some little videos, and also in the FAQ that we address that exact problem, that exact question. It is very, very appropriate for a beginning investor to learn from others who have invested and have similar values. So that's the purpose of the club. There's no investing done on this site. This site is about learning. And then if you choose to invest, you have to follow the link over to the investment portal. And the other part of your question was, can Australians invest? The way I understand it is there's no prohibition against anyone in the world investing according to the US laws. I'm not familiar with the Australian laws, but if you go on the website and you try to make an investment, let's say at WeFunder, which is one of the popular crowdfund portals, or you might go to Start Engine, or you might go to republic.co. These are some of the most active retail-oriented crowdfund portals. They'll let you know if you're not allowed. My understanding is you can. And I know I have friends in Europe, and they've invested in American crowdfunds on those platforms. So I think that Australia will allow you. I hope so.
Nice.
So I'd love to circle back to the point you were making, Justin. It was so valuable that you brought up Beyond Meat, because most vegans know about it. They might not know about the finance side, but they certainly know about the product. And most of us are really happy because we now have something to share with our meat-loving family and friends that is a pretty close substitute that might tip the scale for them to move towards plant-based eating with us. I never had Beyond Meat back in the day, but I would have loved to share a burger like that with my dad. Anyway, so Beyond Meat is a great example. As you mentioned, there were a lot of tech investors who financed it. One of the founders of Twitter was in it. One of the premier investors from Kleiner Perkins, where Vice President Gore is a member, a partner. So there's a lot of Silicon Valley types that got in early to like Impossible Foods. But as you said, none of the everyday people, average people like us, got a chance to. And so when the law was proposed and then signed into law, believe it or not, it was Obama, 2012, April 4th. So when that law was passed, the mandate for the SEC was make the rules for the law. And it was 4 years in the making. It wasn't until 2016 until the rules for that particular part of the law were enacted by the SEC. In that time period, I did two things. I testified and presented evidence to the SEC about experiences in Europe and Australia. There's a slightly different form of crowdfunding in Australia. But I testified and presented evidence about crowdfunding types of activities in Europe, which is already going big in the UK, and that there was no big fraud, no big problems with retail investors getting swindled. That was one of the big fears that the SEC had. And the other thing I did was I put on a conference for 12,000 people, online summit, about crowdfunding. It was 12 days long. We had 75 speakers. I interviewed 75 people, including some of the senators and congressmen who passed this law. And the purpose of the law was very clear, and it was really effective now with the rules from the SEC 4 years later. In 2016, those rules were released. And the law is very much like going on Amazon and buying a product. It's so user-friendly. It's so much like our other shopping experiences on the internet. And that's a wonderful permission that the SEC allowed to stay in the proposals that all of us wanted. And so now the goal of the crowdfunding law is to let the general public, as you were saying earlier, Justin, let the general public who doesn't get to participate in early stage companies, let them participate in companies they know and love. And just as you said, AJ, you know Miyoko, and I know Miyoko. I've been to her house years ago when she was having potlucks, sharing her cheeses, asking for feedback. All of us would have loved to invest in that product because we know how great it is. And we know it's going to become popular with people on the fringe or mainstream even crossing over. So this law makes it possible and makes it easy for people to make investments in products that they know and love. And so what we've done with the Vegan Investing Club is we're going to teach vegans how this law works. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Teach them how it works. And we're going to try to put a structure together that every company that wants to promote their crowdfunding to our members, they have to follow a template. And I'll explain what the template is in a minute, but it's there to provide a little bit of safety for the members of our club. And so that's what we're bringing to the members. We're bringing education about what other members have done. There's some sharing going on. Some of the other people that helped start this with me had made crowdfund investments and they shared their experiences. We're also bringing some ideas on what works in early stage investing in Silicon Valley. Can we use any of that if we invest in crowdfund companies that are early vegan companies? And so that's where the club comes together. There's some safety in numbers, let's say. There's a template. We're going to negotiate with the companies a special bonus shares and a discount for early bird investors from our club that the public won't get access to. So there's a lot of benefits of being a member of the club, and the club is free. So why did I start the club? Again, as I mentioned earlier, as an entrepreneur, I needed to bring in investors into my company, but then I realized there's a much bigger mission here, and that is to accelerate the vegan economy. And as you said, AJ, to help vegans like us and people that are just interested in the environment, maybe they aren't vegan, but they know that promoting veganism helps the environment. We want to have all these people be able to align their small investments with their values, just like you said. And that's the mission of the Vegan Investing Club, to help people align their investments with a little bit of safety. And because the crowdfunding laws are so tailor-made for this, that's the way we're doing it.
Yeah, so I'll add a couple layers of just reiterate a few things. All the campaigns that we promote will be on regulated platforms, meaning that the SEC will have signed off on those projects.
Am I frozen? You're frozen.
And then AJ, can you still hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Both of you, actually.
Okay. The other thing is we will have a template, which we'll talk about in a little while, to ensure that there's a strategy for those early investors to eventually get their money back and hopefully more money from these companies as they either sell a company or the company goes public, like Beyond Meat did a couple of years ago. We will also ensure that they offer shares, or the minimum investment will be only $100. That is the legal minimum for equity crowdfunding. And so we're going to make sure all the campaigns have that same minimum. The company can set the minimum. In some campaigns I've seen as high as $3,000 minimum investment. We want it to make it $100 so that as we get more companies on the platform throughout the year, people can pick 5, 10 investments a year and spread out even as little as $1,000 into 10 different companies. And then if one of them is successful and goes public, you'd expect to make 2 to 3 times your total investment back, and more if it's super successful. If it's an outlier and extremely successful. But diversification is part of our strategy. And what we're going to teach people is to not put $10,000 in one, unless you have a ton of money to invest. But you should put no more than 10% of the money you want to invest in 1 year into each company. So, Mark, let me look at our list of things here, but make sure we covered.
I want to underscore what you just said. That's such a key piece of why I did this, why I started this, Vic. You know, all of us want to invest in our friends' companies if we believe in them, or maybe our own company. But early stage companies are very difficult to predict the outcome. Even the professional investors, the venture capital investors in Silicon Valley that I've known and I've followed, they might invest in their fund, in one of their funds, they might invest in 10 companies. And they put maybe equal amounts in each one. And the ones that they thought was going to be really great might not be the winners. And the ones they thought have a chance, but maybe not the best, they might be the winner. And just like you said, if you invest in 10 early stage companies at a really cheap price, and if one of them does what Beyond Meat did for the early investors, and if Beyond Meat's early investors invested in $3 to $5 a share and they were able to exit at $150, that pays for the other 9 companies that might not do well. So that's the strategy that venture capital professionals are famous for. That's what's worked for them. That's why they have hundreds of billions of dollars in management. And we wanted to bring that strategy into the crowdfunding early stage investing world. So that's what we teach to our members. And so when you join it in the Vegan Investing Club, you get a sequence of emails, and it's to show you and teach you a little bit about how this can work for you. So the simple way it can work is we're right now collecting members. We haven't announced the first company yet. But when we announce the first company, that'll be the test company. We'll prove this thing works. That company will go on to be successful. That's phase 2. So phase 1 is getting membership up. Phase 2 is the first company, test company, proving it works. And then we'll start having 3, 4, 5 companies a month that come through the system. And they'll all meet this template that you talked about, Justin, which involves a minimum investment of $100 for members, a discount and bonus shares for members who invest early, and then an exit strategy. And with that template, and then the plan to raise money, and then go public, that exit strategy should allow for one of those companies to become successful enough to pay off and return enough profit, even if the other 9 go sideways. And so that strategy from Silicon Valley is exactly what we want our members to think about doing. And we're going to facilitate that by bringing to their attention with an email and a link all these companies starting in phase 3, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 a month. And they should just choose one every month for 10 months. And then they'll have their little portfolio, $100 per company over 10 months. That's $1,000. Now they have a vegan retirement portfolio. I just love AJ. So that's what we're hoping will be the outcome of not only the stage 1 and stage 2, but in stage 3, which will go on for a long time. And if we're successful, Justin, I mean, I think we could finance hundreds and hundreds of vegan companies worldwide. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I want to just reiterate a couple of those things. So at $100 a share, a lot of these companies will be raising money with share prices of like $1, $2, maybe $3 a share. And so you said raise money again. Companies can raise money on equity crowdfunding more than once. And there's also more than one type of equity crowdfunding. In the most basic type doesn't require a lot of paperwork for the company, and they can raise up to $5 million a year. The first time they may only raise $500,000 or $1 million. That might be their goal to what they need to do to get to the next stage. And then they can come back and use that same method a year or two later, and they can raise $2 million or $3 million or even $5 million. That should be enough money to get them to national distribution in a lot of cases and get started. And then if they need to raise more money to scale up their manufacturing or to build out their product line or to shore up their supply chain, whatever they need to do, then they might need to raise more money. And then in the normal model, they keep going back to their venture capital investors or their institutional investors to raise more and more money. And the rounds are there's a standard model. There's a standard template like we're trying to create, but it's known worldwide. And they raise a Series A, a Series B, a Series C, a Series D. After D, they might go public, or they might do an E and an F. And at that level, it's like they're raising tens or hundreds of millions of dollars because that's what they need for the next round. They have thousands of employees at that stage. And it's possible that there is a mechanism with equity crowdfunding where you can raise up to $50 million a year later on. So we'll potentially selectively promote those kind of campaigns too, as our companies that go through the first few rounds need more money. And if we can get enough members, we'll be able to help them provide that level of capital too.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that, Mark? How that works?
I'd love to, but AJ was leaning forward. I think you had a question.
No, people are saying, where do we send our $100? And how come like the New York Stock Exchange doesn't do this? Because not that I really invest much in stocks, but I would feel much better investing in vegan companies.
Yeah. Well, I like to underscore what you just said, Justin. That's exactly right. So in Silicon Valley, we have a pattern. And as I started to mention, usually it's the founder starts off with some business model or maybe an idea. Maybe they build a working model, and they go get some seed investment money from some people they know, or maybe some professional seed investors, angel investors in Silicon Valley. And then they go on to the Series A, Series B. Google went all the way to Series K before it went public. So, you can go on like that, as you said. And this is referred to in the Valley as milestone financing. So you raise some money for a specific goal, you use that money to achieve the goal, then you raise the price of the shares and raise some more money for another goal. So each goal is a milestone. And so we're using that exact same system in our template. So for instance, in our template for the Vegan Investing Club, a company, the founder might put in some money to get started, and then they might go to some seed investors and get a little bit more money to accomplish maybe some products and some distribution, as you said. And then they might get some feedback from their earliest investors, and they might say, hey, this is working. Now we need money to scale up. And so we're going to raise the price per share. We're going to raise a lot more money, and we know exactly what we're going to do with it because we just used the seed money to prove that customers want our product. And so that scale up money would usually be the Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, or Series A, B, C, which is usually 10, 50, or $100 million, as you said. It's for scaling to huge markets, maybe global markets. And that's exactly what Beyond Meat did. I think they're at 7 billion market cap right now. So they raised a couple $100 million, and then they went public and raised a couple $100 million. So the idea is to replicate that at the earliest level for startup vegan companies and let vegan advocates and passionate vegans, and even people that are just interested in veganism, maybe they're not there all the way, but they know the value and they are interested, let them participate. And as you said, $100 is the minimum that you'll need to invest and to participate. But we highly recommend you don't do one. Don't fall in love with one. Don't make that mistake. Nobody can pick one winner. If you really want to increase your chance of making a profit, you need to invest in, let's say, 10 or more equal amounts. And you won't know which one, but at least one of them we hope would be the big winner and pay off for all the others that might not work. So that's the idea of diversification and also early investing. So you're really cheap prices. So you might get a 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 40 to 1 return. The later you invest, the higher the share price. And the reason for that is as the company accomplishes certain business goals, it reduces the risk. And as it reduces risk, it raises the price of the shares for the next round of financing. So it's kind of like a staircase. You use the money, you accomplish some goals, now you raise the price, raise some more money, accomplish some more goals, raise the price, raise some more money. So it's like a staircase going up. And by the time it goes public, like the example you said, we use Beyond Meat because it's a vegan company, but most public companies, it's the same. Beyond Meat went public at $25. That was the pricing of the new shares. But we know that early round investors 8 years earlier might have gotten at $3 or $2 a share. And so we're investing in the early pre-IPO days, maybe at $1 to, as you mentioned, maybe $3 to $4, $5, between $1 and $5 a share in crowdfunding. And we're expecting that company to go public within 3 to 5 years or be acquired. Food companies are big on, they often exit by being acquired by a larger food company. And so they might get a $10 or $20 or $30 price per share when they sell. And that's the goal. Buy very, very early, take the risk, diversify, hold. And while you're holding, you're probably a very passionate investor. You're probably going to talk about the product. You're probably going to tell your friends how smart you were to invest in this early stage vegan company. So the company loves small investors. Vegan companies love small investors because they become ambassadors. So it's good for the company to get all these investors. And if now's a good time, I thought I would talk about 2 examples of companies that have used crowdfunding that are retail oriented companies. One is a brewery. It's called BrewDog. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's kind of famous in the microbrewery world. They started in Scotland, 2 guys in a garage, funny enough. It's kind of like an Apple story. And they've had over 145,000 investors since 2015. And they've raised over $110 million. And think about it. These are beer drinkers who are investing in beer. Now they're proud of it. So they're telling all their friends about the beer. And sometimes the investors came as an investor and then they become customers. So there's customers investing and there's investors becoming customers. It's a wonderful matchup. It's a very passionate group. You know, they're kind of punky. They call their investors equity punks. And they give them free beer on their birthday when they come to their breweries. And they have about 100 bars around the world that are called BrewDog bars. They built some breweries in the US. They're building in Australia. So that's one example, very successful since 2015. Another company is an American company called Legion M. And they claim to be they're LA, you may have heard of them, AJ. They claim to be the first fan-owned entertainment company. They produce movies. They have some stars we all recognize, like Nicolas Cage and some others, you know, we might recognize. And so they have a business model where they've raised money and they let their fans help vote on what movies they make. And they get t-shirts, they can come to the openings, they can get mugs. So there's this participation. Again, like the brewery, you're encouraging your customers to become investors and investors become customers. The Legion M people are doing the same thing. And so I would say that that's a great example because they used crowdfunding. They did WeFunder and they've done 7 rounds and their price has gone up. I'm going to pull up the screenshot so I can quote you the exact price, but I'm pretty sure it's gone up about pretty good pricing. Their first funding was a crowdfund at a very low price, like looks like it was around 50 cents. Their latest round, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It was $7. Their first round one in 2014 was $7 a share. They just completed round 7, which I invested in. I put $100 in. I wanted to learn what they're doing right. And they are at $12.50 a share. So they've gone up a little bit. They've raised $11.8 million from 34,400 investors. And it's such a great story because people love investing in something they can relate to. And if you're a movie fan, you can relate to this. You can even participate in voting on your favorite film scripts. And we want to do the same thing for vegans. We want to let vegans invest in companies they know and love. I mean, if you knew about Tofurkey 25 years ago when Seth started it, wouldn't it have been great to give him some money? He told me he lost money for 14 years before he broke even. Talk about commitment. That guy he lived in a treehouse for 1 year. So he's one of the heroes of the vegan business world, and he's a big supporter of the Vegan Investing Club. So I really think that we're onto something here because we've gotten such great feedback, not only from the members who've joined us, but also from vegan leaders who have been there, done that. They know how hard it is to get investment money at an early stage as a vegan company. And so they would all love to help us. And so we're getting great support from all corners, and it's really great. Even PETA is a great supporter of Vic. You know, I know the people at PETA, and we get great support from them. So I'm just looking forward to launching our first company, Justin, aren't you?
Yeah, I totally am. And I want to talk a little bit about the role I'm going to play and so obviously if we had hundreds of thousands of investors in the club and they're all investing in companies, it would be a very fast process. We'd be able to raise money really fast and those people would be able to be customers. But we also need a strategy for making sure the companies we choose are successful. And so part of the way I work with Chef AJ and part of the way I work with other people is by recruiting online influencers and online media companies to promote brands. So traditionally I do that for companies. They just pay us a fee. We recruit the right partners for them, usually set up some sort of an affiliate program so that the partner gets paid whenever something gets sold through their marketing. And that helps fuel their growth. Well, we basically are working on an affiliate program where the companies that are raising money will set aside some shares and some money to pay aligned influencers to help them promote their campaign. And then once the campaign is over, to help them promote their products and services. So if we get a good cohort or network of influencers who can choose which companies they want to support based on their values, based on what they know their audience loves, then we'll have a mechanism for ensuring solid marketing for these companies down the road, and also ensuring additional marketing beyond our own membership for when they do their fundraising on these crowdfunding platforms. So we hope to be just one of the channels that people hear about these campaigns from, and investors come through us get an earlier price and get those discounts and those bonus shares that you mentioned. And then when it's actually public, the influencers will promote it and they'll get a lot more investors and give them the momentum that they need. So I'm already starting the outreach to try to recruit niche media companies and influencers to help us support promoting the VIC itself, the Vegan Investing Club itself. And then once we have, like you said, phase 3, when we have several companies a month, we can do matchmaking and help each company find 5 to 10 promotional partners that they can continue working with for years into the future.
Yeah, I love your skills and your success in that area, Justin. And that was one of the things I was so happy to learn when I reached out to you last June, that you had, I think you said it was a 54,000 person online summit that you ran for a client, and it was very fast in a few months. And that's an amazing thing to do. You did an amazing job, Justin. So let's see if we can do that for Vic.
Yeah, that's an event that Chef AJ was speaking at last year. Mark's talking about the holistic holiday at home, which we ran last summer when COVID hit. And AJ, you run 3 or 4 summits a year across between. You participate in more than that. You do 2 yourself, I think, and you helped us with ours last year. And most of the events you work on bring in between 20 and 50,000 attendees. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that can be an opportunity for more people to find out about the Vegan Investing Club. These summits. Maybe through, I don't know, a page or something like that, or Not sure how that would work, but I'm excited about it. I'm going to try it. I mean, because the initial buy-in, like you say, is $100, right?
Yeah, and you can put in more. I mean, if you feel basically, I think the formula would be consider how much money you want to invest per year in the vegan economy.
Exactly.
And then divide it by about 10. And then invest that in each one. So some people that might be $1,000, that would be $100. That's the minimum. Like if you have $1,000 to invest, maybe you redirect $1,000 you would be putting into your 401k or IRA or into whatever other investments you're doing. Put that much aside and put it into the vegan investing club. But if you have a lot more money than that, or you have a lot more to save every year, you can turn that up. And then hopefully, if we prove that it really works, there'll be an incentive to invest more. But we're not asking, we're not pushing anyone. That's why we're enforcing the $100 minimum investment, so that we can commit to that promise that you can invest $1,000 a year and be diversified across 10 companies. Personally, when I've made equity crowdfunding investments, I've done 3. I've invested between $500 and $1,000 each time. And I don't really have $10,000 a year right now to invest, so I'll probably do $200 to $300 per company. But then if I feel really good about one, I might go 500 or 100 or 1,000. I might kind of start with 100, 200, and then go up a little bit more if I'm feeling really excited about something. I think I have a really good strategy for helping them grow.
Nice. For the vegans, by the vegans. Maybe that could be your tagline. Mark, I just off topic, but your glasses seem really cool when you put them on. They look like they had like something in back. You got to talk so we can see you.
Okay, sorry. So I have glasses that come apart in the front. They're magnet. I never lose them.
That is very cool.
These made it all the way through Thailand and Bali with me.
Well,
Thank you for mentioning.
That's something I would invest in right now.
Yeah, and this is American made. You would have thought something like this comes from Japan or China, but this American made. They're pretty cool. I'll send you the link on it. So I'd love to follow on what you're saying, Justin. It's so important. So Vegan Investing Club is literally a club for information. There's no investing on our website. We don't touch your money. We don't take your money. That's done through a portal. We just send you to the portal. And the portal might be any one of the portals that are legally licensed by the SEC that the company chooses. So the company goes on a portal, they come to us and they say, hey, we know about you, we love you, we're vegan, we fit your template. And we say, okay, let's look at your minimum investment is $100. And we go check. Then we say, do you have an exit strategy? Is that seem realistic? Okay, check. And then, whatever else our full template is, but depending on the stage of the company, if they're a brand new startup, we would want to see some traction. If they're further along and they're going for scale up money and they're really, they have a product in the market, they've, got revenues, we don't need to see as much of their story because they're further along. So there might be a little bit difference between some of the companies earlier, some of the companies later, but the idea is it's very early stage, very young, and we get a discount for our members. Now, our members, if they choose to invest in one of these companies, they just go over to the portal. They link over and they're gone from our site. They got the link, they read about it, but they went over to make the investment if they want to. And I just want to make sure everybody understands, we're not regulated by the SEC. We don't take any investments. We're just bringing vegans together and connecting them with vegan companies that fit our template. And we want to accelerate the vegan economy. And we think this is going to really be exciting. I'll give you one piece of metrics that I just dream about at night. Think about India. There's 250 million people who right now eat vegetarian every day. Now they eat a ton of dairy, and there's diabetes is going up 10% a year in India, unfortunately. So people are starting to question, and I know vegan entrepreneurs that are starting up vegan yogurt, vegan lassi, vegan soybean for their cheese. They're coming up with all these vegan products in India, producing in India for the Indian market. So there's going to be a very big shift, maybe 2%, 5%, 10% of the 250 million people might move towards veganism. They'll love to invest in what they know and love when they're allowed to. And so we think that's going to be one of the places where the tipping point might hit quicker than most other places for people shifting towards a plant-based diet. And so we think vegan crowdfunding will be very popular there. Exciting.
Well, it's an idea whose time has come.
Yeah. What else should we cover to make?
Well, we only have about 3 minutes left. We've covered everything.
Okay.
I want to just reiterate a few things. It's a free club. There's no obligation to invest. We will provide education, and then we'll provide information, a notification really about when campaigns are starting. And the first one will be in the next two to 3 months. That'll be going live, and we'll share with that. And then we'll probably have another one early next year. Probably by the middle of next year, we'll be doing trying to do several per month, or at least 1 to 2 every single month. So AJ, if you want to share the tracking link we sent for you to share.
I put it in the show notes, and I've put it a few times in the chat.
Okay, great. Well, AJ, we would love to work with you to get an email out to your audience as well to watch the replay of this, and get the link out there with them as well. We'll talk about that. I'll email you about that later. But yeah, so the only other ask we have is to share this with your friends and vegan communities that you're part of, to help us get to the critical mass sooner. I personally think that's about 50,000 members, and to get to a place where we can pretty much ensure that if we have a great company coming through, that there'll be enough investors to make sure that get that first round raised quickly, it takes a lot of pressure off. Traditionally, equity crowdfunding campaigns can take 6 months to a year and have to spend a lot of money and resources on marketing it. That distracts the company from doing what they need to be doing as a business. So what we're hoping to do is get to critical mass so that in only 1 or 2 months, without a lot of additional marketing expense for the company, they can raise the money that they need to take the next step in their milestone, their growth.
That's exactly right. I just want to add that we have over 11,000 members now. So we're getting there. We got great reception. So I'm really excited to have you join me and help build it. And AJ, I thank you so much for your support, and I look forward to your participation at whatever level is convenient for you. We'd love to have you.
I'm just curious, the food venture you were talking about, is that something you can also talk about? Because that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to mention it briefly. As we alluded to earlier, I made this film and I had high hopes to change people's ideas. I really love Super Size Me. I love Super Size Me. I thought it was so effective at changing people. Well, what I learned was, if you're already vegan, you love Super Size Me. But if you're not a vegan, you didn't change. But I didn't find that out till my movie. Same thing happened. People saw people get better. They reduced diabetes, they didn't change. They said, hey, great to know, but I'll do it later. So I decided to make food that would make it really easy for people. And so these meals come in a package. You store them at room temperature, and you don't need to even cook them or add water. You just open them and eat them. And it's called Veg Ready. And there is a website. We're not currently selling right now. We're sold out. But we think that we did a lot of testing over the last 2 years. And we think that this can be the tipping point for mainstream who's interested in eating more plant-based foods, but they aren't going to go out of their way to put a meal together from Trader Joe's on Sunday night and bring Tupperware to work. So we're trying to make it really easy for lazy Americans.
Maybe that should be called the lazy vegan.
I like that. Fat gay vegan, lazy vegan. Why not?
That's neat. Very cool. Well, I love it. That'd be great for people that travel, people that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These go right through. I've taken them on airplanes. They go right through TSA screening. Yeah.
But you could heat them up if you wanted to. I'm on the website.
Oh, yeah. They're microwave safe. And, the plastic that it comes in is recyclable. Look, we know it's not perfect. It's not a perfect solution. It's not organic yet. It's non-GMO, but not organic yet, because we didn't want the price to be high enough that it'd be a barrier for someone to try it. We had a couple thousand people try our prototype meals. They bought them online, not knowing whether it would taste good or not, and they loved it, and they reordered. So we learned we can sell a meal that we tell people it's not frozen, it doesn't have preservatives, and you don't need refrigerated.
Yeah.
What? How could that be? Try it. You'll see.
Yeah, that's amazing just for the shipping, because there are food delivery companies that, they ship in dry ice or some other method.
Yeah, packaging is crazy.
That is very cool. Well, you just seem like you're a real entrepreneur.
Well, thank you. It's about making the world that you and I see as possible, make it real. Let's make it real. Let's link arms, or as they say, is this a heart? Does this look like a heart to you? Somehow?
Right here, like this.
Okay.
Nice.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
thanks so much for being vegan for 50 years. That's incredible.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Yeah, and Justin, thanks always for introducing me to, well, I mean, I met him, but I didn't know what he was into. So such interesting topics. The people that are watching really are interested. And hopefully they'll click the link and consider trying it out.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you for your friendship and for bringing us on. And hopefully we'll come back on in a couple of months to talk about the first campaign as well.
That sounds great. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at 11 when my guests will be doing a cooking demo from Vegan Armenian Kitchen. Take care, guys.